Hello, my Sparkle Sisters. Happy Wednesday. Oh my goodness, I have the flu. So today will be quick. I am a woman of my word. So well, hopefully I'll get through this without coughing. So I want to tell you, I am so excited about all the things that are going on with you all. I am loving all of the notes. I'm loving all the communication. I'm loving all the comments. And in fact, I'm pulling them up right now. So excited that this is working. We did an event on Monday night, and I swear it was the weirdest things ever. I mean, like things I've never even seen happen. I didn't even know that those things could even happen. And so I'm excited that today is working, and I'm excited to be with each one of you all. Thank you so much for being with me. If you will put your name and where you're from, we'll find out who our first one's on. Oh my gosh, we're excited. We've got Marcy. You're always on here first. You're so good. We got 18 already on here. Hi, Melina. Hi, Anna. Hi, Dell. Let's see who else are watching. Sometimes it's a little bit hard. They don't always tell you who all is on there. So today we are working on chapter 3 in the book. And this is one of my favorite stories. I'm going to talk about when I got to serve with my church whenever I lived in Shreveport, Louisiana, there for Hurricane Katrina, and really all of the lessons that we learned there. So yeah, just put your name, where you're from, and that way we get to hang out together. Today is talking about being a blessing instead of being a burden, and doing a little bit of a race and replace in the way that you look at what you're doing. So I do know a lot of us are in an industry where we provide a product. And I know whenever I talk to people all the time, they're like, oh, I could never do sales. And I'm like, but I'm not asking you to do sales. I'm asking you to create an environment where you can show a product where somebody can purchase. And I know it's the same thing. I do understand that it's just a little bit of a play on that, but to understand that selling, like, I don't believe you can sell a woman anything. I don't. I really don't. Now, a woman loves to buy, but she hates to be sold to, or at least I do. And all my friends are like that as well. So, Susan from Oregon, yay. Melina, it's the book I wrote. It's called Step Out of the Box. But you don't have to have the book to go through this. So, but you can get it up on Amazon. Yay, we have some. I don't know how to pronounce your name. I don't know where that's from. When we're talking about being a blessing, whenever I got started in my business, I was really, really, really nervous about working with people. And I can remember just being so afraid to talk to people. And one of the reasons that I almost didn't get started was because I didn't really know how to put products on myself, much less on other people. And then I just started thinking, well, why is that? And I'm like, well, because nobody ever taught me. And there's no way I'm going to the mall and having those people do my makeup. And my mom didn't wear a lot of makeup. And so that was the reason. What almost held me back was the reason that I decided to get started, because I thought, gosh, what if I could create a place where women could come and be with me, and they would feel safe, and they would not be sold to, and that they could try products customized for them. And then I would be their consultant for life. And so it's about being a blessing. So whether you're talking about your ministry, whether you're talking about your nonprofit, whether you're talking about your business, whether you're talking about being a volunteer, whether you're talking about being the PTA, when you shift your mind and you go from what can they do for me, WIIFM, what's in it for me, and you flip your radio station and you go to WIIFT, what's in it for them. And that's what I talk about in here, that you will find people that be tuned in to your radio station. They'll hear your music. And so I think that whenever you're really looking at moving ahead, whenever you can flip, how does this conversation be a blessing to them? So like when I meet somebody, I don't think how could I book them or sell to them or add them to my team? It's how can I be a blessing? How can you be a blessing? Who could I connect them with? Tell me a little bit about you. Tell me what you do. Are you new here? Do you need help finding a good doctor? Do you need help? Like, in other words, if you really, really want to make an impact, be the woman that people come to when they need something. I love to connect other businesses. I love to connect people together. So again, like it's how can I be a blessing to them versus what can they do for me? And that makes a huge, huge difference. When we talked about the Oh, here we go. I'm on the wrong page. Sorry about that. So being a blessing and not a burden to people. I also think that one of my favorite mantras is that it is all good because the whole story isn't written yet. Right. I'm going to say that again. It's all good because the whole story hasn't been written yet. You can type that in there. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that just because something happened today, somebody said yes or no, it doesn't mean that it is good or bad. I love the Chinese proverbs where it said, somebody asked this old Chinese gentleman, he's like, well, is this a good neighborhood or a bad neighborhood? And he said, what was the neighborhood that you came from? And they said, oh my gosh, it was wonderful. And he said, that's how it's going to be. And then the next person asked him, how is this neighborhood going to be? And he says, well, how was your last neighborhood? And they said, well, it was horrible. And he said, that's exactly like this one. And so when you're looking at a situation, you make it whatever it is. And a lot of times whenever you're working with people, it's not necessarily their season to soar, but it might be their season where you get to pour into their foundation. I think sometimes we think success is whenever we get to see the stage and all of the wins there. But sometimes for people, our role is to maybe do the planting and the watering and the fertilizing. Maybe we're not supposed to see the harvest, right? God creates the harvest anyway. But very often I see people get so frustrated at themselves and with other people, and they're like, well, why are they not working? Well, it's not their time. And when they're ready, they will. And so if you can quit trying to make people do things and work on being a blessing, and what can you teach them? What life skills can you teach them? How can you believe in them? How do they feel whenever they get off? Are you their number one fan? Y'all, that's how you make an impact. They'll figure out the rest of it. But don't you want to be that safe landing zone for people to be able to come and hang out? And what I talk about on here, we've been talking about your dream life. And so, what is my best next step toward my dream life? We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about, what is the worst thing that could happen to you? Okay. You know what? I don't know if it's on Audible or not, because I did not Audible it. So I would assume not. But one of the things we did talk about is, what is your worst case scenario if you make a decision to do something in the direction of your dreams? So maybe that is starting a part-time job. Maybe that is, depends on what your dream life looks like. Where could you volunteer right now to find out, maybe what age groups that you like working with? Maybe it would be, going and being an intern somewhere. Maybe it could be whatever it is that would move you in the direction of your dreams. We've got to go back to that second conversation, that one that says on here, I don't know enough, right? So we're going to erase that and replace that with, I'm going to find the people with the answers till I can be the person with the answers. For those of us who are alpha females, high producing, when we start something new, it's really hard, because what we're doing is we're comparing our confidence with something we've done for a long time. So like whenever I started my Mary Kay, at that time I was in the Air Force, and I designed and installed computer and telephone systems, and I was really good at it. Well, not really. Really, I was good at getting a team together and getting the job done. It was really a little bit above my head. But all of that to be said, I had a really high self-confidence whenever it came to that. I had a low self-esteem because I did not play well with others at all. Definitely women. So I had a high self-confidence and a low self-esteem. Then whenever I started in Mary Kay, then I had a low self-confidence and a low self-esteem. Then I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't like people. So I had to figure out, okay, what's going to be the easiest thing to move? And that would be skill-based, to be able to move that. And I think it's just so challenging whenever it's just like so dark, you're like in this hole and you're like, I don't even see a light at the end of the tunnel. And so the thing that I found is, in the beginning, I worked a lot on self-confidence. But what I found was that I moved the needle more if I worked on me. if I started reading books. My first book was Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Many of y'all have heard that story. I did my very first party, and everybody wanted to break up our skincare, and my director told me not to do that, and I'm a rule follower, and so I dropped an F-bomb, which you should not do, and I just packed up my stuff and left, and I thought my director was going to be so proud of me, and she was like, I mean, I can't even imagine somebody calling me with that now, and we're really good friends now. And but she said at the time she was just like grasping for something, and so she said, Diana, she said, all right, we're starting a book study on Monday night. Would like for you to read the first chapter, and I'm like, great, what is it? And she said, Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, and I was so oblivious. I didn't even know I was slammed with that, right? I'm like, okay, great. And then I got that book, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what do you mean you don't say what's on your mind? What do you mean you don't have to win every battle? What do you mean you don't talk people into whatever you're doing? What do you mean you don't argue? That's been my whole life. Like my whole life has been a battle. In my family, like, it was like who won the battle. I mean, we had almanacs, back before Google. I mean, you had to prove everything. And so when the first time I read that book, I'm telling you, what happened is I started changing how I responded to people, right? It is it was one of those things that once I started thinking about other people, how could I be more of a blessing? Well, I couldn't be a blessing if I said dang mean. Does that make sense? So I had to learn how to soften my edges. It was really hard. It was really hard to do. And I have a lot of funny stories that go along with that. But I do think that whenever you're starting something new, it is important that you work on your self-esteem at the same time that you're working on skills, and they'll go back and forth. So you may not have all the answers, and just be patient while you're learning the answers. The other thing, I can't sell. I will find a way to be a blessing. I can't lead. I will empower a team to partner with me, to come alongside. I don't want to tell people what to do. So again, what is that thing in your head that holds you back from going all in on this step towards your dream life? Focus on the solution and not the situation. I can remember when Hurricane Katrina came through in Shreveport. This is what I'll kind of wrap up with today. We had no idea. Pastor Rick Berlin, we decided that we would open up basically the last shelter. I mean, it was horrific. And we were getting the people from the Ninth Ward. We were getting the last people out of New Orleans. And the Red Cross, although they did a great job, we had like a post-it note. Like it was like they were just overwhelmed. And I can remember Rick saying, okay, Diane, I want you to set up transportation and sign in and government checks. And I'm like, I've never got one. And I don't know what that is. And he said, well, you'll figure it out. And I love to work with people who just let you go figure it out. So I will tell you, even though we did not know what we did, what we needed to, like, we knew what needed to happen, we didn't know how to get there. And it could have been so easy just to be paralyzed in fear. And that's why I love to collaborate. So I can remember the first day whenever I walked in there, and there were a lot, we called them our residents. They were there, and we were at the Hirsch Coliseum, and there were all of these cots there. And it was the most unbelievable what I didn't know that I didn't know. I've never seen anything like it. And I can remember sitting down and introducing myself, and it's like, okay, I need your help. This is what we need to set up. We need to get all of the government services here. What are you getting? And so they're like, here's this, and here's this, and here's this, and here's this, and what about this? And then I'm like, okay, well, so tell me how everything is going with the clothes, and then they're like this and this and this. And I'm like, okay, well, can you help me with this? Can you help me with this? And then I started getting them involved. And I mean, it was crazy things like, what do we do with people who are HIV positive? I'm like, oh my gosh, I never thought that thought. I remember the girl coming up to me saying, you've got pedophiles here in this thing. And I'm like, Holy moly. And then like, and then we'd have people that come in that have no papers, and you knew why they didn't have papers. And then, like getting like there were just so many things. Like every day it was just all of these situations. But I will tell you that one of the things that I loved that time was empowering other people. I'm so grateful that I did not know the answers. And I'm so grateful I didn't know how to get from A to Z. I am so grateful for the people that were there at that Coliseum, that under the my posting note of things to do, that they helped me figure that out. And I can remember this one little gal, and she worked in the ninth ward, which is Bourbon Street, and all of that. And I could tell she'd had a really hard life. And I remember, because our church, we made the commitment that we would not share about Christ until we showed them the love of Christ. In other words, we were not going to Bible beat them in the heads. We were going to serve these people who have lost everything. And that if they wanted to hear about the Lord, we would love to share it. In fact, we didn't even let some churches in. We're like, you haven't earned the right to speak into these people because you're not serving them. They need to be served. You want to come in here with your people and you want to serve? Okay, great. But you're not going to come in here and just start preaching. And I loved that we did it like that, because what happened was, because we weren't trying to get like another notch in our belt, like another believer. I mean, like sometimes I always feel like that, it's just like trying to convince people. We wanted to be a blessing to these people. And I can remember this little girl coming up to me and she said, Miss Diana, that's what we do in the South. They always put a miss in front of the first name. And Miss Diana, I have never felt so much love in my whole life. And I can remember thinking, oh my gosh, you are living in a cot with 1,000 other people, and this is the most love that you've ever felt. I cannot even imagine. And I just remember giving her a hug, and and I just remember telling her, you are loved, you are seen, you are adored, you are important. And I think about, as the time kind of wrapped up there, and this little boy coming up, and we talked every day. And one of the things that people didn't realize that Hurricane Katrina did is it was an out for families who've never gotten out of that ninth ward. And I can remember him coming up, and his grandma was in this wheelchair, and he's like, Miss Diana, we are moving to Connecticut, and we're gonna have grass. Nobody in my family has ever had grass, right? Because they've only ever lived in the city. And I thought, oh my gosh, what a perspective on this. And I think about that it is all good because the whole story is not written. Was Hurricane Katrina good? No, it really wasn't. But there was a whole group of people that used that situation to change the entire trajectory of their life. And I wonder, Sparkle Sisters, if today, if you're just buried in doubt or discouragement or whatever it is that you might be dealing with, I wonder if it is just shifting. How can I be a blessing to other people? I think I told you I have the flu today, and I couldn't wait to get on here with you. I feel better. Yesterday, I didn't do anything. I slept all day. I felt like crap. Today, I wanted to talk to some people. Isn't it amazing that whenever you talk to other people, I'm still just as sick today as I was yesterday, but yesterday was like, oh, poor me, I don't feel good. Today is being able to focus in on other people. So when you get in the midst of something where you don't feel good, or there's things that are going on, how can you, that's how you get to feeling better, is serving other people. How do you get off of start? That's what the whole chapter has been about. What is that next step? You got to figure out what's the thing holding you back, erase and replace it. You will figure it out as you raise your self-esteem and you raise your self-confidence. And then that way you'll be able to focus on the solution and not on the problem. So excited for you all this week. I look forward to seeing y'all next week. We'll be going into chapter 4. Let's see, here we go. We are going to hop into our house shoes. It is time to clear out the clutter in your mind. That is so good. Let's see what else we've got here. So good. Oh, you're so sweet. Rachel says you show people love very well. That is my thing. So I am excited for you all this week. Leave me some messages on how you've done that erase and replace, how you've retuned your radio station into WIIFT. Let's Let us focus in on what's in it for them. There are people waiting for you to see them and value them and tell them how amazing they are. Okay. Y'all have a great week, because together we are too blessed to be stressed, too anointed to be disappointed, too equipped to be whipped. Have a miracle filled week. Bye bye.